Right, first actual lesson, Algebra 2. This is equations, so this better not be something that's too hard or you're going to be in trouble in a whole big hurry. So I am not even going to bother with number 1 because that's a simple basic two-step equation. However, we get into fractions, we'll talk about this a little bit more. Some of you have been taught a couple of ways on this, so I'll take a quick couple of looks, the way I'd prefer and the way some of you may do it. Some of you may have been taught, well, I want to get rid of the fraction first. So I'm only going to multiply both sides by 2 at the start. And then divide by 5. However, faster way to start doing things, and something that we should be able to do at this point, if we take that same problem and multiply by its reciprocal, and again, if you're not sure, you can always turn the 20, any whole number, into a fraction just by putting it over 1. Look what happens now. 20 times 2 is 40. 5 times 1 is 5. And I get the same answer. Again, it's not going to be wrong if you choose to do it what I like to consider the longer way. But here's something that just might let you think about things a little bit quicker. Variable on both sides. First job, always get all the variables to one side first. I like to stay positive with things when I can. So again, I'm going to subtract the 3a from both sides. And I would rather take my time and show work rather than speed through, mess it up, and have to do it again. I can add 8 to both sides. And just because you get an answer at the end when you divide by 6 that's a fraction doesn't mean it's wrong. I'd also like you to try to avoid decimals whenever possible, because again, it just gets us a little more practice here, like knowing, oh yeah, both of these are divisible by 3. Okay, work your way through, no big deal. Okay, distributive property. All right, back at it here with the distributive property. Again, try not to do multiple, like 3 and 4 steps at a time, because basically all that happens when you do that is you mess up and you have to do it again anyway. Why want to do that? So, if you have like terms on the same side, get those taken care of first. Watch your signs, don't get sloppy. Next, just like we do any other time, get all of your x terms together. Myself, I like to go ahead and keep it positive, so I'm going to add the 24x to both sides. We'll subtract the 4 back over and divide by 12, and we're good. Okay. Now again, when we get down here to the fractions, this gets a little more interesting for a lot of you. Even though we've got on here, okay, multiply the entire equation by the LCD. Now hopefully you know what the LCD is. It is not the fancy screen that you have on your iPhone. No, least common denominator. What's the smallest number that we can multiply through by to get rid of all of the fractions? Hopefully you're pretty decent with this. If you're calculator dependent, this could be a little trickier, so kind of watch and hopefully learn here. 6 and 12, the smallest number that will go into both of those, that evenly divides in, would be 12. Okay, 6 goes into 12. 12, of course, goes into 12. Even though that x term doesn't have a fraction, we still multiply it by 12. So be careful. So we have 12x. Okay. 12 times 5 is 60. Divided by 6 is 10. 12 times 2 is 24, divided by 12 is 2. Or you could turn the 12 into a fraction and multiply across and simplify. And now it's pretty simple. Add the 10 over, divide by 12, and we're set. Okay, nasty looking problem, not really that long. When we get going on this next part, now you have some options here. Here, if you decide to multiply by the LCD first, here's one thing you have to be careful of. This is the equivalent of one very large term. Your 4 is only going to multiply to the 3/4 and over here to the 11/4, because if I distribute through, it's like taking one term and multiplying it by 4 3 times. That's not going to work for us. So here, the 4's would just cancel and leave me with the 3. And you know what? We're making this more complicated. You're going to love this online. We're even going to do it this way now and figure this is harder. So let's not do it the hard way. Let's distribute like it's mentioned down here in 7. Keep life simple. You're like, Harty, what are you doing? So 3 times 4 would be 12 over 20. What would 12 over 20 reduce to for our first fraction? Looks to me like that would be 3/5. So we have 3/5 x. 3 times 2 would be 6 over 4, which reduces to 3/2. Now I'm going to go through and multiply by my LCD. I really think this is going to end up being simpler, and it lets you see here with me even doing that in the middle of a problem that sometimes the first thing you do might not necessarily work. Maybe trying something else works a little bit better. I just happen to notice this looks like it's going to make this really tricky, so let's do it this way first. So we distributed first. Now we're going to multiply by the LCD. 2, 4, and 5. What's the smallest number that all 3 of those is going to divide into? In this case, that's going to end up being 20. If you're not sure, you could always make a list, 2, 4, and 5, and start writing out the multiples until you found a number that's the same in each of them. But that can take time sometimes. So it's just something we got to keep working with. 20 times 3 is 60. Divided by 5 is 12. 20 times 3 again is 60. Divided by 2 is 30. Oh boy, 20 times 11 is 220. Divided by 4 is 55. And again, once we get the nasty fractions out of there, add the 30 and divide by 12. Yes, screwy answers are okay. 85 over 12. This is math class. You can get screwy answers. They'll have to come out even. So go ahead and do it that way. And we'll get practice with one more here on number 7. Again, like it's mentioned, which I wish I'd have looked at to do before, distribute first. And again, if you get something that simplifies, negative 12 over 15 would be negative 4/5. Go ahead and do that. 14 over 30, but that's going to be a positive 14 over 30 because it's negative times negative. That reduces down. And you're like, ew, 5, 15, and 20. How am I supposed to figure this out? So let's talk a little bit about what I'd mentioned before. If you were going to start looking at multiples on these, the 5, you know what 5 goes into, so I wouldn't even worry about that. If you start counting by the other 2 numbers, so I'm counting by 15s, counting by 20s, you'll notice that after about 4 numbers in, I find a number they have in common, and 5 goes into 60 as well. So we're going to multiply everything through by 60. Some of you are going to say, can't I just put this into my calculator as a decimal and just no, you need to know how to do this. So 60 times negative 4 is negative 240 divided by 5. See, work your brain enough, you can actually start doing this math in your head like I am. 60 times 7 is 420 divided by 15. I had to be a smart aleck, and now I'm going to end up going to the calculator because I'm being a goofball too. 60 times 7 divided by 15. I should have gone with what I first thought. I was right. 28. And then 60 times 17 divided by 20 is 51. Okay? Because again, multiply by the numerator and then divide by the denominator. So now again, I can go ahead and then divide through. Don't get freaked out by the weird numbers. They are okay. Now we'll actually get a little of application in here with this. We've got a real estate broker's base salary is $18,000. That'd be kind of hard to get by on. She earns a 4% commission on sales. How much must she sell to earn $55,000 total? Now here's what I want you to think about on this one. When you're doing a problem like this, let's think about it word-wise first. Okay? We have a salary. To that, we're going to add whatever we make on commission, and that's going to be our total amount of money that we make. Okay, now that we've looked at it in words, now let's try to put the math part into this. Well, what's my salary? $18,000. Okay. My commission, I don't know exactly what it is. I know I earn 4% of something. Well, how much must she sell is what I'm trying to find. So 4% of what she sells would be my X. And I want to earn $55,000 total. Now that I've got it set up, I can subtract the $18,000 from both sides. And we find out she's got to sell $925,000 in real estate to make her $55,000. The old housing market, sure. Now, yeah, probably not. So, but that's how we actually put this into use. I have a summer job that pays $5.60 an hour. Holy cow, it's slave labor. Somebody call the cops. I get $8.40 an hour for overtime. I don't even get minimum wage at overtime almost. Okay. How many hours of overtime must we work to earn $287? Now, when you stop to think about this one for a minute, again, put it into words first. My regular hours plus my OT hours equals the total amount of pay that I get. And sometimes just writing these things out can make this easier. You're like, okay, I make $5.60 when I'm doing regular. I make $8.40 when it's overtime, and I want to make $287. Now this gets a little more interesting because you're like, well, how many hours? Okay, that's my X. So do I just put X in with both of these? Not quite. Regularly, I'm going to work 40 hours. Okay, so we know that's the case. So now, with my overtime, if I keep reading, that's my mystery number. Okay, I could get into fancy business with X and 40 minus X, but why make it hard when I don't have to? So if I go ahead and multiply my regular hours out, I find out in a regular 40-hour week, I get about $224. Pay for a couple of tanks of gas. That's about it these days. Plus, and now again, it looks like a regular equation. I subtract the 224 from both sides and divide by 840 and find out about 7.5 hours of overtime would do me good here, even though I still think you need to find a better job if you're only earning $8.40 an hour for overtime. Finally, a new iPad was recently purchased in Algonquin for $464.40, including tax. If the tax rate in Algonquin is 8%, find the price of the iPad. Again, think about it in words. So the iPad plus the tax is going to be how much it costs in total. Now let's fill in what we know. We know the total is $464.40. We know the tax is 8%, but what is the price of the iPad? We don't know. That's the mystery. So that's X. Then what do I do with the tax? Whatever the iPad is, I want 8% of the iPad. 0.08x. Add those up because this is like having a 1x. Go ahead and divide by the 1.08. Oops, I don't want a decimal there. There we go. And that iPad costs $430. Get a little bit of practice here with the assignment book listed at the bottom of the page. Have any questions, let me know, but give it a try. Good luck.